You should see what's going on in black churches across America. A powerful new phenomenon catching fire.
I want you to begin to apologize to them.
Men reaching out to women they don't even know, asking forgiveness for all the men who have done them wrong.
Please forgive me.
Women abused, abandoned, or hurt by men now move to forgive. An emotional journey for all women and the men they love.
A broken heart has no color.
Sylvia Chase, with a growing movement healing the wounds between men and women. Sister, I'm sorry.
A story about women who have been lied to, cheated on, abused, or abandoned by the men in their lives. There's a new movement afoot, driven by the powerful voice of a preacher. He is telling men that it's time to look women in the eye and say, I'm sorry. His idea has particular meaning for the black community, but as Sylvia Chase witnesses this healing journey, you have to think about how many others might benefit from the message.
God restored the sight of somebody who couldn't see their way out. 'Twas grace.
It is an evening at church, but a night full of anguish as the preacher beseeches men to make amends to women.
I want the men in the audience to stand, and I want the brothers to come down front and join me down here. Face the women. Don't turn your back to them.
Reverend Donald Bell asks these men to do a simple thing, to say, I'm sorry to the women in this congregation.
I want you to begin to apologize to them.
Women who have been hurt, neglected, or abused by men are asked to stand.
Just tell them what God sees in them.
Most of these people barely know each other.
Whoever that man was, I am so sorry and I'm praying.
Yet the ritual they are enacting produces powerful responses.
Please forgive me.
The Sister I'm Sorry movement is sweeping black churches like the revivals of old. Its leader believes it is beginning to mend the rift between men and women.
That night set me free. It just, wow. It was amazing what it did in my life.
Sister I'm Sorry crosses all age groups. Angela Rogers is 33 years old, a mother of 2 young children. Catherine Weddington is a grandmother in her 50s. She has raised 5 children. Like her mother before her, she was, she says, the victim of an abusive mate.
I think why I have such deep hurt is I never dealt with those things. I just pushed it aside, pushed it down. So I guess all this hurt is just piled on top of each other, and it's hard to bring it up and release all of it.
But here in her home church, Catherine feels free to let go of years of abuse.
That would be the sound of deliverance.
In churches like Chicago's Missionary Baptist, overwhelming emotion takes these forms. People feel no embarrassment when seized by the Spirit.
The Holy Spirit just took me out on the floor. I stayed out there for a while.
Had you anticipated how emotional this would be? How much anguish there would be?
No, not at all.
What's happening?
I really believe people are being touched in a very deep place. There's a place in all of us where only we know. And this taps into that place, that hurt place, that prison, that cell, and allowing an atmosphere of safety in which those emotions can come out.
Reverend Bell is in demand around the country since he started the Sister I'm Sorry program at his church in Inglewood, California, 5 years ago.
So proud of you. I remember when there was just 30 of us in that Bible study, and now look at God.
Sister I'm Sorry changed Bell's fledgling singles ministry. Just a few dozen when the program began, but thousands have now experienced these sessions, which seem to break down the confusion and hostility between men and women in today's society.
One of the responses I get from the men afterwards is just how the girl that I knew that was sitting next to me carried around all of this pain and this hurt that I was never aware of.
It's almost as if men are able to see for the first time. For instance, Tashaka Green now disapproves of womanizing, something he used to see as just a guy thing.
Anything that's in a skirt that moves, that they find attractive, they just go after. And most of the guys that I personally know have that mindset in terms of how many women that they can sleep with.
Darlene Love realizes now that when men think like that, women suffer the consequences.
Lies. Just lying to me. All the promises, the broken promises, from guy after guy about being there and how they will always love you. And then they wouldn't be there. And they didn't love you.
Iyanla Vanzant's inspirational books are self-help bestsellers, and she is in demand as a motivational speaker at corporate workshops, in churches, and prisons.
What most black men feel in this society is you can't win. You're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
And statistics suggest they have good reason to feel that way. When black men are arrested, they are 8 times more likely to be convicted than white men are. And with 9% of black men unemployed, they have a jobless rate twice that of white men.
The average African-American male makes $18,000 to $20,000 less than his white counterpart. Money is a problem in any relationship, in any marriage.
That's one of the many reasons experts say there is a shortage of black men willing to commit to marriage. 42% of black women never marry, compared to only 22% of white women. And 53% of black women are heads of households, raising children on their own, compared to just 18% of white women. That statistic suggests a tremendous amount of pain having been inflicted specifically on African-American women.
Every time there's a struggle, every time there's a need, every time they have to look at the pain of that and say, I'm having to do this by myself, there's a tremendous amount of loneliness.
Okay, can you tell everybody their number? Okay.
It's a feeling familiar to Darlene Love, a successful engineer who finds friendship and faith at church, but often spends evenings alone.
One of my girlfriends from college, her husband said to me, Darlene, if I was not married, there's no way that I would try to date you because you have everything, the way that you are, the things that you have. What could a guy possibly give you?
Many African-American men believe that they are not enough, just being who they are. Therefore, they believe that they don't have anything to give or bring to a loving, intimate relationship.
Sister I'm Sorry is about bridging this gap between men and women. And a first step, Reverend Bell believes, is to lift the burden of woman's pain, to let women know they are not always to blame. I attended this 3-hour-long Sister I'm Sorry session at World Overcomers Outreach Church in Memphis, Tennessee. Angela Rogers would later say these tears were for the child she was when an older man molested her.
I would hide in the closet to get dressed. He came to the closet and I tried to act like a big girl, like I wasn't afraid that he was there or like he didn't. And I just see, look at me, and I sort of tried to play it off like I wasn't afraid.
The men saw her through her pain, though none of them knew its source.
Let him know. To have even a stranger acknowledge that pain. It's a statement of saying that pain is real. I understand that pain really hurts you. I'm sorry that happened to you.
Family therapist Dr. Constance Ahrens believes that however unorthodox it may be, Sister I'm Sorry has profound validity, which can cross racial lines.
I think that this can cross ethnic lines, and it can be helpful to all women.
A broken heart has no color. A woman raising her child alone in fear that she doesn't have enough has no color.
There ought to be some things that you should not. There ought to be some things in our community that brothers ought to be afraid to do
because of what other brothers might do if they find out they did it.
Reverend Bell is calling for nothing less than honor among men, and among women, healing, especially for those who've suffered physical and emotional abuse.
There are tears of pain, there are tears of joy, there are tears of relief.
Dorothy Chambers received not only an apology from Church Deacon Joseph Roth, but also a promise to protect her from ever being hit by a man again. She was so overcome, Dorothy was unaware she was surrounded by men and by prayer.
And it was the most beautiful thing to me. I mean, as I raised my head up and I saw him, and I was like, wow.
This is the beginning of a process. We recognize it as a process. It's not a cure-all. We're not trying to say, this is how we're going to cure all the men in the world. But what we are saying is that we have to start somewhere.
Thank you, Thank you, Lord.
Reverend Bell's program has been so well received that he is now preparing several cross-cultural sessions. Members of neighboring black and white churches have been invited to come together for his program. And the Reverend also thinks his idea might work for parents and children in need of emotional healing. A simple yet powerful concept, just to say, I'm sorry.
He's alive to tell a powerful story. When life threw him a curve, he wanted out.
I was going to swallow salt water and drown. My life was over.
But faith and these children